Hi, it's Julie from Cricket Leg Creative. Welcome back. I've got a really pretty ice skates card for you today that I made using just one stamp and a die cut set from Sizzix. So here's the Sizzix die cut set. It comes with enough to make skates and flowers and holly and greenery. And then the stamp I'm using comes from a Sunny Studios set, a holiday style set, that greenery branch there. That's what I'm going to be using to make the border. So the first thing I want to do is just lay that skate down to just kind of get an idea of how far in should I stamp. It's just a regular 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inch note card that I'm making, and I'm putting that stamp onto my acrylic block, not worrying about the end coming off there because I'm only going to be using partial stamping of that. And I've got mostly Stampin' Up! Stamp pads, so I'm using what I have, which is a lighter green and a dark green. The dark green will be the majority of the stamping, and the light green will just add a little bit of dimension here and there. So just gonna stamp up that greenery and stamp it varying the direction that it goes so that it looks a little more random, and go around the edge of the card. I need to get some new stamp pads. I don't have a ton of colors right now, and just wondering what stamp pads to get. So if you have a favorite company for die ink pads, I would love to know what your favorite is. I do have a couple of Hero Arts that I just got for Christmas cards that I'm going to be making, but I would love to get recommendations. So I'm just going around now with that lighter color, not stamping it as often as the dark green one. I just want to add a little bit of depth to the card by adding that light green in there and some of the empty spaces. I considered doing some ink blending too, but decided to just leave that because I'm going to be doing some splatter in a little bit. So I was just cleaning off my hands. You know, I have a tendency to get fingerprints on my card, so I'm trying to be real careful. So now just not stamping, die cutting the skate out of white. And I think at this point I decided I don't think it's going to be a white skate. I think it's going to be a brown skate. So I've got some craft paper cardstock, and I'm cutting it out of that as well. And I figured I'd just use the white behind it to be an extra layer. And I'm also using the black to get some other parts of the skate you'll see later. I just wanted to show you up close that silver. It's not kind of a straight silver. It's got like a texture to it, and I thought that would be really pretty for the blades of the skates, and just running that through a couple of times. Partially die cutting it because I don't need the whole thing. Now just to show you, there are flowers that come with it, but this is what I'm going to be using for the rest of the card. The bow, some greenery and berries. I'm just going to use a couple of different colors of green and a couple of different colors of red for the greenery and berries, and just kind of quickly running the holly through a few times and then the berries through a few times. This is kind of the boring part, getting all the parts ready to put together. I have to say, I do love using die cuts, but I cannot stand the teeny tiny pieces. Like this greenery is fine, but like the berries and the teeny tiny, like you'll see, I'm going to have a time with the shoelaces. But anyway, so I don't have a lot of brown colors of cardstock, so I'm taking an alcohol marker and just coloring onto some white cardstock to try a couple of different colors of brown, and using those for these little berry sprig dies that come with the set, and I'll see which one of those looks the best when it's time to use them. They're real teeny, those little teeny tiny branches with berries on them. That's kind of a fun tip, to be able to customize the color, because I don't have a ton of cardstock and I want to be able to get the right color that I want. And then this is kind of a deep burgundy red. And now I'm going to run through with the brighter red and the burgundy in a minute the bows for hanging the skates. And I think they have a double loop there just to give you a little bit of dimension. If you kind of offset it, then it makes it look like maybe it's double loops on there. So there's the darker red. I haven't decided yet which one I'm going to use as the main color. I'm just going to kind of wait and see how it looks when it all comes together. So I'm kind of playing around with this, and then realizing that what I would like to do is add a color for the heel and the sole. But Something interesting happened here and I had to skip a step. My husband was installing Google Analytics on my blog and he was doing it away from home. And so I was getting a security alert on my phone to ask me, did I want this, um, did I want to approve this? And so I had to tell him, yeah, okay, fine, whatever. And then I did not realize that it stopped my recording. I used my phone to record my videos. So what I did was just cut off the bottom part of the craft skate and glue that to a black die cut of the skate. I thought it was recording, I recut the skate out of black and just put that on top. And then the white skate that I originally cut is on the very, very bottom to give it some more stability. So now I'm just going to put on using my little tweezers. Those are really nice to have because the pressure holds the stuff into place instead of having to squeeze as you're tweezing. So I added the blades on, and now I'm taking that jewel picker. That's what I was showing you. It's got a little bit of wax on the bottom to pick up tiny things. It's really helpful. It is not helpful to hold a tiny thing like those shoelaces onto the picker and then try to put glue on it, because the glue nozzle wants to pull off whatever you're holding with the jewelry picker. So I decided to just go straight to the paper with the glue. And I'm using Gina K Connect glue to put these teeny tiny shoelaces. This is the part I hate about die cutting. I love layering all the pieces together, but the teeny tiny pieces drive me insane. So as I go along here, it's not too long before I realize that I have used more laces on one shoe than I was supposed to. There are 6, if you see in the picture of the Sizzix example, they've got 6 lace pieces, and I ended up putting 7 on this one because I just wasn't thinking about it. And I also realized that I was missing even more pieces. I don't know what happened to them, but in a minute you'll see me start looking for them. And I don't know, for me, I do not want to get out the die cut machine again. I mean, it's out on a table, but I didn't want to bring it back over and run a die through again. So I was trying to figure out what was I going to do because I had put too many pieces on. So here I go. Where is it? Where are the pieces? I've run out of pieces. So I decided to get the white pieces from the first die cut I did of the skates in white. I still had some of those little pieces to the side, and I just took a marker and colored them because I was just too lazy to go get my die cut machine and put it under where I was filming. And that worked out just fine. You can't tell the difference. They're so small, it doesn't really matter. But they are still a bear to pick up. But I really like doing I was going to do the white skates. I like doing the craft paper because it reminds me of those kind of old-fashioned brownish skates, and it looks kind of retro. So skates themselves are done. I love that silver paper, and I'm just kind of placing them here to see what they'll look like. Now it's time to splatter. So I didn't show you because I did it off a little too far off camera and you couldn't see, but I'm using white gouache, titanium white, and I just watered it down a little bit, and I've got kind of a stiff brush, and I'm just flicking some of the paint off. It's really, you can probably see it on the box. I like to use a box to splatter and spray things so it doesn't get all over my work surface. And I've done this before with just a watered down acrylic paint too. So if you don't have gouache, you can certainly use white acrylic paint. So I'm tapping at this point to try to get bigger splotches. And I think that maybe the gouache was not maybe mixed up well enough in the tube because it didn't come out very opaque white, but it's still pretty. I still like it and it kind of had a little bit of a antique white look to it. So I set that aside to dry, and while that's drying, I'm just gonna put together all the skate pieces. So put the skates on each other and glue those together, and then start thinking about where I want the greenery to go. This die cut set is one that I bought from Hobby Lobby. When I first started getting back into stamping, I really did not have a lot of die cuts and or dies, and I wanted to build my collection, so I thought, well, I'll just use my 40% off coupon every week at Hobby Lobby and get a new die set every week. And this is one of the little die sets that I bought What I've found though is that I really am preferring the die sets from companies like Spellbinders and Altenew and Simon Says Stamp and My Favorite Things, all those guys, just because they tend to come with better support instructions or pictures even. Some of the dies that I've gotten from Hobby Lobby, it's just the package, and here are the dies, and here's the number of dies, and general information, and not any ideas of how to use it. And so maybe I'm missing something. Maybe there's instructions on a website that I need to check into, but I just find that it's a little more helpful to get the die sets from some of these directly from some of the companies. But this has been a fun set to use, and I think it turned out really well. And now that this is the first time I've used it, and now that I've used it, I can be a little more familiar with it. So I ended up using the darker of the two brown colorings that I did on cardstock for the berries. I really wanted to have kind of a variation in color, and the lighter brown was too close to the craft paper on the skate. So I chose the darker brown and just put a couple of berries on that. Kind of reminds me of like, what is it, bittersweet? Or I don't know. It just was a cute little spray to have the greenery and the holly and the darker berries. I love Christmas greenery, and I think this is a really, really cute, pretty selection of greenery to go together. So just trying to put on another headache here, the teeny tiny berries, but I found that using jewel picker and then using those tweezers as kind of a teeny tiny releaser, you know, I'm using those to help the berry stay down as I move the jewel picker away from the paper. Now trying to figure out, do I want to have the brighter red or the darker red be in front? And I think I end up choosing the brighter red, which means that I'll just use the darker red as a backer piece to give a little bit more heft to the bow. So I'll just use the glue there and take the brighter red bow and glue it onto the top. I love these tweezers for placing things. It's just a little easier, especially when there's wet glue, to have almost another set of fingers. And I just use my fingers to kind of make sure that everything is lined up well. And for this other part of the bow, I am using the red part is going to be the bottom piece because I want a little bit of darker color to show through. So I'm allowing the darker red to be on top for the final part of the bow. So now it's time to adhere the skates and bow to the card. And I'm just going to use some little adhesive dots that I have and put them in strategic spots. I don't want to put it too close to the top of the boot because I've got to tuck in that bow. So just kind of placing them mostly all over and then positioning it where I want it to be, making sure that I have enough room for the bow and placing that on the middle, at the middle of the card. And then adding some glue to the back of the bow so that I can then position it and kind of tuck those little ends down into the skates. And that's it. That's the front of the card all done. So now it's time to put that onto my folded card. And I'm just using Lawn Fawn 1/8 inch double stick tape, which I use all the time, love it, to lay down some tape and pull off the backing pieces and position the card on top. And then that card will be done. Using my folder there that comes with the score buddy that I have to make it nice, crisp fold, and that's it. So there's this very, very sweet, cute, almost retro to me ice skates card. Thanks for stopping by. I hope you'll give me a thumbs up and subscribe, and I hope you have a great week. See you in the next video. Y'all take care.